Hello, my friend. If you are watching this video, it means on some level you have cared deeply about what other people think. And you're at a stage where you are ready, either consciously or unconsciously, to stop giving away your love, your attention, and your focus to people, situations, and circumstances that do not reflect the same level of care, of love, and attention that you magnetize out. So in today's video, I'm just going to share a few perspectives to help you connect to the awareness that you already have within. You have likely already been feeling some of these ways. And so finding this video, I'm a big believer, if you've watched my other videos, maybe there's a better word than believer, but I am one who perceives that we attract into our lives messages, people, situations that on some level resonate within us. So in other words, I perceive that if you are watching this video, you have called it forward to you to reflect to you an inner wisdom that you already have inside of yourself. And I am honored to be connecting with you at this time and playing this role and experience with you. So that being said, what I'm going to do, if you have seen my channel before, hello, I'm Danielle, and I help people connect with their truest versions of self through clarifying of values, subconscious pattern identification, and through simple, good old inner awareness turned into practical steps in their lives. And right now, what we are about to do is we're going to take a look at why we might care about others but overgive, and some perspectives to help you see the gift in that tendency you have. Because something I truly believe and perceive is every single shadow we have, and this is a term I'm borrowing from Richard Rudd's Gene Keys. If you haven't seen that, you might look it up. But in Richard Rudd's work, he describes certain characteristics we have in our lives. There's a shadow pattern, and that shadow can contain a gift as well. And it can also contain an exalted state. I end up calling it an exalted state. He calls it a city. So through a lot of our inner introspection, we have the opportunity to look at the challenges within ourselves, not as challenges to be crushed or fought against, but as diamonds in the rough that when seen in the right light or with the right washing off or carving of the material, actually contains with it something profound, something very helpful to us. And it's a very powerful way to move through life, because you may have heard this before: what you resist persists. So when we're approaching our life or the perceived challenges of our life from a perspective of, I gotta fix them, something's wrong with me, there's something I gotta figure out, then we are actually running our energy on the cycle of attempting to fix from a place of something being broken. Now, I can really understand how that could be frustrating, I know, as a fellow human being who has gone through a lot of cycles of being aware of what might be the ideal way to run, but also sometimes just being in the muck of it. And so in this video, like I said, we're gonna go a little bit into the when we care, right? When we care, but letting go of caring about what other people think, so that we can operate from our truest selves, and how we can do that in compassionate ways. Now, one of the first things I'll say is it can be very natural to care about what other people think. It's actually, I would go so far as to say in our ancestral DNA, we have certain hardwired programs that guide us towards community on some level or another. There were times, many times in our human history, where you survive or you perish based on the community or tribe or your position in it, or the strength, in numbers. And I would go so far as to say some of the depression, some of the ennui that many may be feeling in the world comes from certain levels of disconnection, not just individually, but we really thrive in certain kinds of interconnected patterns. Now, that doesn't mean that we require others to be whole. The way that I see it is when we are in our wholeness, we naturally connect. And there's a slight difference between that, and that's what we're about to talk about when it comes to the shadow or the gift state of this. Now, caring about what others think from a certain perspective can be very beautiful. It can be something that shows, we have empathy, but it's like the taking care of the tribe, right? And if we care for another, if others care for us, then we're forming a symbiotic sort of relationship. And if everyone does that, we create this harmonious pattern and web of well-being in which the well-being, of one is the well-being of many, and vice versa. But what sometimes people fall into the pattern of is if they are an empathetic person and they give to a person or a situation or a group that does not value or reciprocate that reflection, or even if the other person, or even if this other side does value it, if you overgive from a level perhaps where you're trying to say, if I give you a lot, you won't abandon me, or if I give you a lot, then you will need me, you won't leave, we'll be together, or this will prove my worth to you. If I make myself invaluable, then I can't be let go of. These are a few of the ways that this energy shows up unconsciously. But what happens when we give that way is, I have found in my own life, anytime, whatever energy we are giving with or creating with, it permeates. In other words, it infuses whatever it is you're creating. So to create from an imbalanced place is to put kind of a loop or an imbalance in there. The way I might describe it is if you were like rolling up a piece of tape, but you like rolled too fast, and so you weren't making tight concentric circles. Instead, you started creating like bumps or extra layers, and then eventually, as you kept winding around them, the shape would get a little out of balance and a little lopsided, and the more you put on there, the bigger that lopsidedness would grow. When I say we live in a fractal reality where the initial seed of what we creates the echoes from that, this is part of what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the fact that what we infuse in a situation is what you'll see continue to come out of it. So when we care too much about what others think, we are giving our power externally to them. We are saying, you have the power to affect something within me. We are saying, how you see me can topple or shake how I feel about myself. So let's look at a few thoughts on this. Some people might say, well, what if a person's like a boss, or what if a person's in a situation of power? It's important to remember that even in those scenarios, we give other people consent to have power over us. Like that might be the purpose of a job. We say, yes, you give me money, and in exchange, I give you my time, and you get to assign what I do during these hours. And therefore, you have played a role in which a power exchange has happened of sorts. But in theory, if you are not in a slavery situation, you still have the ability to say, well, I'm going to take my power back. Now, let's go to even a slavery situation. Even in those situations, we still have the power of where we drive our inner focus. We still have the power of coming back inside and holding our resilience. Now, to be clear, I do understand that the more pressureful a situation is, the more challenging it can be. The moment that we abdicate, meaning the moment we let go of responsibility for our inner focus and our inner choice, is the moment we give power away externally. And I would say that no matter what your circumstances, no matter what any of our circumstances is, that is one of the places that you can continue to hold your deepest power. So coming back to the root of when you care about what another person thinks, when you assign too much importance to their view of you, you take from yourself the power, the inner power, to choose resonant things for yourself. Because if their vote, if someone else's vote is higher than your own vote of what is resonant for you, then you find yourself anxious, you find yourself chasing, your magnetism shifts from being drawing in to repelling. Now, this is the shadow state. The shadow state is a chasing state. It's a chasing state that at a very unconscious level says, I don't feel like I'm enough, so I'm gonna overgive to compensate for that. And when we do that, we are signaling to others what our value is. People treat us according to the value that we assign ourselves. And not the value you assign yourself here, but that you assign yourself through your actions and what you say yes and no to and follow through with. We can see who we are based on how we live, not what we say. We can see who others are based on how they live, not what they say. It's so important to remember that. So, when we're caring about others, when you might be saying, okay, well then I'm ready to at least explore what it is to let go. Here's what I'll invite you to consider, because this is what really helped me. I started to realize that when I was caring a lot about what other people thought, on some level I wasn't valuing my own perspective or my own energy. It took a lot of resilience and a lot of courage for me to be willing to look at that. And for me, the modality has been journal. So I would take out a journal and I would start writing, well, how do I feel about listening to myself? Is my word more valuable than others? What do I think about that? And some of those questions were very uncomfortable because it started to bring me to a place of, well, then why wouldn't I value my own word? Or why did I feel I needed other people to validate me? And each person's answer may be a little bit different. But what I will say is, for myself, when I was looking at why I continuously felt the need to validate myself externally, it had boiled down to some of the ways that I had patterned myself based on how I was raised, based on potentially some of my genetic patterning. And as I have been willing in the recent years to say more authentic yeses and nos, I have found a deeper sense of well-being within myself. It doesn't mean I don't still experience challenges. However, my ability to experience challenges has expanded. I would say it's like this. It's like if you have a deeper tolerance for cold, if you are able to go outside for longer periods of time without having to wear as many thick shirts. You might still feel the cold on some level, but there's more fluidity there. All right, I wrote myself some notes too to see if there's anything that I wanted to include in the video. So the other thing to mention here is the rebel with reactivity is the same as overcaring. So something to keep in mind is the rebel side is just the other side of the coin of the overcaring side. So there's the people who overcare and overcompensate, and then there's the people who completely push away and dismiss. Both are reactive, and they're the same. They're just the opposite side of the same coin. So consider that. You can say yeses or nos, but it doesn't have to be reactive. All right. And for myself, honesty with myself without being reactive is the pathway that allowed me to be really, really discerning, that allowed me to be more authentic with saying yeses and nos while being compassionate, but starting from the root of my values. Because everything that we do in our life really comes back to our values. I say to people who are very compassionate and make choices that ultimately drain them or their energy, I say, that may have seemed like a compassionate choice at that moment, but is it compassionate for you? Or consider perhaps all the other projects or experiences you could have been engaging in that perhaps you don't get to now because you've narrowed to this choice. And that's not a shame or blame or guilt, but it's an opportunity to get curious as how to optimize your choices. I've been a marketer for many years. Many tests we run, many things fail, and many other things succeed. But the thing is you don't go into those tests thinking, oh, I only can succeed. All of life, in a way, is an experiment, is as we say in the marketing world, a split test with many variables. And you have the opportunity to experiment in your life. So if you found this video, like I said, on some level you are complete with over-caring what others think, and perhaps instead you can just be discerning. And you can simply start saying to yourself, I value creating meaningful connections, but I also value honoring myself. And so when I approach care with another, now I'm going to approach it from a much more aware place where I'm not only considering my values, but I understand that even if temporarily someone would feel hurt or sad by me saying no to them, I know that in the long term, it's going to be such a fulfilling and joyful outcome for everyone involved. And so I hope this initial exploration has brought some more clarity and has brought some deep value to you and has offered you a portal to explore a potential shadow of caring about others, over-caring, into the gift that you may be a very attuned person, and that the more you set clear boundaries with yourself, the more you can still do very caring things while also still being in your own power and not giving so much away. We can care without depleting. And this is the path you're on. So congratulations with that. I am currently hosting a flow-based container that will be launching soon. If you are interested, please go ahead and check the description for details on how to reach out to me to learn more. And there's of course more items in the description. I have several courses or ways to connect with me if you would like do some direct work together. We can always explore that. And in all other cases, please feel free to comment, to subscribe, whatever it is that you feel reflects the value you got from this. I look forward to connecting more very soon.